Today, we're diving into the epic and somewhat mysterious life of King Sargon of Akkad. Grab your popcorn because this story is a roller coaster of legends, dreams, and a lot of ancient drama. So, who was Sargon? Well, historically speaking, he's a bit of a mystery man. Unlike your run-of-the-mill emperors with mountains of documented achievements, Sargon's story is a bit more enigmatic. Blame it on Akkad, his capital city, being lost to time, like trying to piece together Julius Caesar's life without Rome. So, what do we know for sure? Thanks to later writings and legends, think ancient Mesopotamia's version of action hero epics, we get some clues. Remember, these accounts might be as historically accurate as a superhero origin story, but they paint a colourful picture nonetheless. But let's rewind to the start. Legend has it that baby Sargon was found floating in a basket on a river. Sound familiar? Yes. Sargon was basically the Moses of Mesopotamia, but with fewer Hollywood movies. A gardener found him and thought,
"Hey, free baby."
So he took him home and raised him as his own. His real dad remains a mystery, but his mom was supposedly a priestess. Talk about divine origins. Despite his humble beginnings, Sargon climbed the social ladder faster than a cat up a tree. From gardener's son to the personal cupbearer of the king of Kish, named Ur-Zababa. Now, don't confuse this with a glorified waiter. Being a cupbearer meant you were inner circle, trusted with the royal beverage, and privy to whispers of courtly intrigue. Now, here's where it gets juicy. According to the legend of Sargon, he had a creepy dream where King Ur-Zababa was drowned by a girl in a river of blood. Yikes! When Sargon told the king about his nightmare, Ur-Zababa freaked out. Naturally, he decided the best solution was to get rid of Sargon. So, Ur-Zababa handed Sargon a bronze mirror and sent him off to the royal smith, Belik Tikal in Aesakil, with secret orders to have Sargon thrown into a mold with the mirror. Sargon, clueless about this plot, went on his merry way. Lucky for him, the goddess Inanna stepped in and warned him. The goddess actually told Sargon that Aesakil was a sacred place, and no one with blood on their hands could enter. So, Sargon met the smith outside the building and handed over the mirror without getting cooked. A few days later, Sargon returned to the king. Seeing Sargon alive and kicking scared Ur-Zababa even more. This time, the king sent Sargon to Lugal-Zagasi, the king of Uruk, with a message asking him to kill the messenger. Unfortunately, the rest of this legend is missing, so we don't know how it ends. However, it likely led to Sargon's rise to power. From available sources, scholars know that Lugal-Zagasi was a powerful ruler who united the city-states of Sumer. They also know that once Sargon gained power, he attacked and defeated Lugal-Zagasi. To celebrate this epic win, Sargon took a symbolic victory lap, a refreshing dip in the Persian Gulf, basically washing his hands and saying, "Sumer is officially under new management." But Sargon wasn't done yet. He continued his empire-building spree. He launched military campaigns to the east, defeated Elam, and received the surrender of other local rulers. Sargon also moved west, conquering Mari and Ebla, two city-states in modern-day Syria that were always at each other's throats. One side effect of Sargon's world tour of conquest was the establishment of trade routes. With all of Mesopotamia under Akkadian control, goods could travel safely from north to south along the Euphrates River. Cedar wood was imported from Lebanon's forests, and precious metals came from mines in the Taurus Mountains. Akkad traded far and wide, reaching as far as Anatolia, Magan, possibly modern Oman, and even India. In the epic of the King of the Battle, it's mentioned that Sargon led a military campaign into central Anatolia to protect Akkadian traders from the ruler of Burushanda. The text also claims that Sargon crossed the Mediterranean Sea and landed in Cyprus. So, that's the story of Sargon the Great, a man who, according to legend, went from basket case to badass emperor. While the details of his early life might be a bit hazy, there's no doubt he left a lasting mark on history. He was the first to unite a vast region under one ruler, laying the groundwork for all the empires that came after. Not too shabby for a guy with a questionable birth certificate. Sargon ruled from around 2334 BC to 2279 BC, and his reign was pretty legendary. After he passed, his son Remush took over the throne. Remush had a lot on his plate, from fighting against rebellious cities to building impressive structures. But it wasn't just about wars and construction. There was plenty of family drama and court intrigue too. And let's just say, Remush's end was anything but peaceful. Someone definitely didn't approve of his performance. Remush, taking over the reins of the Akkadian Empire, ruled for almost 9 years, putting in a Herculean effort to keep the empire prosperous. He was the ancient equivalent of a city planner, commissioning various building projects to flaunt his rule and the might of the Akkadian Empire. Although the specifics are hazy, it's likely he sprinkled construction projects across key cities to leave his mark. Now, Remush wasn't just about bricks and mortar. He probably kept the arts and culture scene buzzing too, continuing the tradition of supporting cultural activities and the production of artistic works within the empire. However, it wasn't all smooth sailing. A number of rebellions sprang up during his reign, but Remush squashed them with the efficiency of a seasoned whack-a-mole player. Surviving inscriptions detail how he faced these revolts, having to reconquer cities like Kazalu, Lagash, Dur, Adab, and Umu. One standout relic from Remush's era is the victory stele of Remush over Lagash. This stele is like a victory selfie, showing off the Akkadian troops' conquest of Lagash. The relief on the stele also depicts Mesopotamian prisoners, whose rather grim execution by Akkadian soldiers lines up with the known accounts of Remush's iron-fisted actions. But despite his accomplishments, Remush wasn't winning any popularity contests. Oddly enough, it wasn't just his subjects who had a bone to pick with him. His nobles and even his own people weren't his biggest fans either. The reasons for this widespread animosity remain a historical mystery. One juicy bit of drama comes from Remush's family life. His sister, Enheduanna, who was Sargon's daughter and the first known female poet in history, didn't have the best sibling relationship with him. She was a high priestess of goddess Inanna, devoted to her divine duties. But as soon as Sargon shuffled off this mortal coil, Remush wasted no time in booting Enheduanna from her position, replacing her with another woman. A surviving poem from Enheduanna reveals her heartfelt plea to the goddess for reinstatement.
The holy temple, I, Enheduanna, the high priestess. I carried the ritual basket, I chanted your praise. Now I have been cast out to the place of lepers. Day comes and brightness is hidden around me. Shadows cover the light, drape it in sandstorms. My beautiful mouth knows only confusion.
Why Remush gave his sister the boot is still a puzzle. Maybe he just wanted his own crew around him, or perhaps he had some trust issues. Whatever the case, his unpopularity eventually came back to bite him. After roughly 9 years on the throne, Remush was assassinated by his leading nobles. A later inscription from the 1st millennium BC rather dramatically describes the omen of King Remus, whom his courtiers killed with their seals. After Rimush's untimely demise, his brother Manishtushu took over. In the grand tapestry of Mesopotamian history, the name Manishtushu might not ring as many bells as the illustrious Sargon of Akkad or the famous Hammurabi of Babylon. Yet, this relatively unsung hero of the Akkadian Empire has a story worth telling, complete with the typical intrigue, conquests, and a dash of Mesopotamian melodrama. Inheriting the throne around 2270 BC, Manishtushu enjoyed the benefit of a relatively stable empire thanks to his father and brother's conquests. When Sargon passed away, he left behind a legacy of unification and expansion that was a tough act to follow. Manishtushu's elder brother, Rimush, initially took up the mantle, but his reign was cut short, mysteriously and abruptly, a situation not uncommon in the annals of royal succession. Enter Manishtushu, ready to wield the scepter of Akkad with his own distinctive flair. Sources are a little hazy on Manishtushu's reign, but evidence suggests he focused on internal consolidation and administration. He also likely continued the family tradition of military campaigns, though details are scarce. Maybe he wasn't as keen on self-promotion as his predecessors. One intriguing inscription mentions a naval victory against a coalition of 32 kings. It sounds like something out of a historical epic, right? Historians are still debating its validity. Did Manishtushu truly pull off this impressive feat, or is it an embellished legend? The jury's still out, but hey, it makes for a good story. Among other Manishtushu's accomplishments include significant achievements in trade, conquest, and restoration. He led a fleet down the Tigris River, establishing trade connections with 37 other nations, showcasing the Akkadian Empire's influence and reach. Militarily, he conquered the city of Anshan in Elam, expanding the empire's territory and consolidating its power. In a testament to his dedication to religious and cultural restoration, Manishtushu rebuilt the Temple of Inanna in Nineveh around 2260 BCE, revitalizing an important spiritual center for his people. While Manishtushu had a penchant for overseas exploits, he was also keen on ensuring his reign was marked by internal stability and prosperity. He commissioned numerous statues of himself, which is a surefire way to ensure people remember you. These statues weren't just exercises in vanity. They were symbols of power and divine favor, strategically placed to remind the populace of their king's omnipresence. Despite his seemingly peaceful reign, Manishtushu's story ends tragically. Just like his brother, he was assassinated after 15 years on the throne. Talk about a family curse. The reasons remain a mystery, though whispers of court intrigue abound. Maybe someone felt left out of the decision-making process, or perhaps Manishtushu's office manager persona wasn't as appreciated as it should have been. While overshadowed by his more flamboyant family members, Manishtushu played a crucial role in solidifying the Akkadian Empire's foundation. He might not have been a conqueror or a poet-priestess kicker, looking at you, Rimush, but his contributions to the Empire's stability and administration deserve recognition. The reigns of Rimush and Manishtushu are like the middle child syndrome of Akkadian history, often overlooked because they're squeezed between two rockstar rulers, Sargon and Naram-Sin. We've already learned about Sargon in the past video, so now it's time to dive into the story of Naram-Sin, the proclaimed greatest king of Akkad. Naram-Sin the fourth ruler of the Akkadian Empire, was Sargon's grandson and Manishtushu's son. From 2254 BC to 2218 BC, he took the empire to its zenith. This guy didn't just sit on his laurels. He went on to conquer parts of western Iran and northern Syria, following in the ambitious footsteps of his father and grandfather. He crushed the kingdom of Magan and took on the northern hill tribes in the Zagros, Taurus, and Amanus mountains, expanding his empire all the way to the Mediterranean Sea and Armenia. The guy was basically the ancient world's version of a globe-trotting conqueror. But Naram-Sin wasn't just about brawn. He had brains too. He signed a peace treaty with Elam, consolidating his uncle's biggest victory. This clever move gave Naram-Sin peace on his eastern borders, allowing him to focus on expanding his territories and dealing with Gutium, a pesky rival nation. This treaty is a testament to Naram-Sin's diplomatic finesse. Kita, the king of Elam, promised to send Elamite troops, and even agreed to display statues of Naram-Sin all over his kingdom. They sealed the deal with a classic political marriage between Naram-Sin and Kita's daughter. With this treaty, Elam was pretty much absorbed into the Akkadian Empire, and Akkadian became the official language for official stuff. Thanks to his military success, Naram-Sin adopted the grandiose title King of the Four Corners of the Universe. And get this, he also claimed to be a living god. The people even held a ceremony to declare this divine status, as per an inscription. A famous stele, the Victory Stele of Naram-Sin, depicts him as a larger-than-life figure among his subjects, rocking a horned helmet. Classic godlike imagery. But Naram-Sin wasn't just about warfare. He streamlined the empire's records and strategically placed his sons and daughters as governors or high priestesses in key Mesopotamian city-states, boosting the Akkadian Empire's political and religious clout. During his 36-year reign, Naram-Sin expanded the empire's boundaries, maintained order, increased trade, and led campaigns beyond the Persian Gulf, possibly even reaching Egypt. However, not all was divine and dandy. According to legend, the gods destroyed the city of Akkad due to one impious act by Naram-Sin. The story, a mix of myth and moral lesson, tells how the great Sumerian god Enlil decided he was done with Akkad, so he banned the other gods from visiting and giving their blessings. Poor Naram-Sin had no clue what he did wrong. He tried praying, looking for signs, and asking for omens, but all he got was a 7-year funk while waiting for Enlil to spill the beans. Finally, in frustration and fury, Naram-Sin attacked Enlil's temple in Nippur, an act that supposedly incited divine wrath and brought the Gutians, a group described as human in instinct but canine in intelligence, to ravage Akkad, leading to widespread famine and ruin. Despite this dramatic tale, historical records don't support the notion that Naram-Sin destroyed the Ekur at Nippur. The story, The Curse of Agade, is likely a later creation meant to stress the importance of a harmonious relationship between the gods and rulers. While Naram-Sin might have been a bit full of himself, evidence suggests he honored the gods and was quite pious, ensuring his image stood proudly alongside theirs in the temples. Naram-Sin died, presumably from natural causes, and was succeeded by his son Shar-Kali-Shari. After his death, the empire began to fall apart. The Sargon dynasty ruled Mesopotamia for about 150 years, starting with Sargon and ending with Shar-Kali-Shari. They were a big deal in ancient history, like the first ever superpower in the region. This dynasty turned a chaotic mix of city-states into one united empire. Sargon and his gang introduced the idea of a divine leader destined to rule the world. They might also have started the trend of seeing warfare as a full-time job. Plus, they made the Akkadian language the lingua franca for scholars across Mesopotamia. Despite all their achievements, this grand experiment lasted only about 150 years before falling apart in the 22nd century BCE. After Naram-Sin's amazing rule ended, the Akkadian Empire started having big problems. His heir, Shar-Kali-Shari, had his hands full dealing with all sorts of external threats, so Akkadia had to channel all its energy into beefing up its borders. But hey, Shar-Kali-Shari managed to keep the empire from completely falling apart. Kudos to him. The death of Shar-Kali-Shari marked the end of the Sargon dynasty in the Akkadian Empire. After this, a big fight for the throne began. Some southern cities saw this as their chance to break free, and the Akkadian Empire quickly lost control over these places. Things got pretty confusing. Just look at what the Sumerian king list says regarding who ruled Akkad after the Sargonic dynasty. Who was king? Who wasn't king? Igigi was king, Nanum was king, Imi was king, Elulu was king. These four ruled for 3 years. Even the ancient historians seemed as puzzled as we are today. By around 2150 BCE, the Akkadian Empire was history. Ancient records say it was divine payback. Apparently, Naram-Sin had declared himself a living god, which didn't sit well with the actual gods. They got pretty mad and took it out on his successors. Their divine wrath came in the form of the Gutians, a wild bunch from the Zagros Mountains who swooped in and wrecked the place. After Akkadia crumbled, the Gutians took over Mesopotamia. Not much is known about this period. The Gutians didn't exactly leave a lot of records, but a few cuneiform sources suggested that the Gutians weren't exactly stellar administrators. They apparently didn't care much about farming, keeping records, or even public safety. Legend has it, they let all the farm animals loose to wander around Mesopotamia like it was their own petting zoo. As a result, famine hit hard, and grain prices went through the roof faster than a rocket. By 2100 BCE, the third dynasty of Ur rose to power, bringing Sumerians back in the spotlight after being under Akkadian rule for a while. Modern scholars have cooked up a bunch of other theories to explain the fall of the world's first empire. Some blame bad management, poor harvests, rebellious city-states, or even a giant meteor strike. Lately, most experts are leaning towards the idea that a nasty drought did the empire in. After the fall of the Akkadian Empire, the Akkadian people coalesced into two major Akkadian-speaking nations, Assyria in the north, and a few centuries later, Babylonia in the south. The Akkadian Empire's legacy lives on in modern history as a reminder that innovation and ambition can forge greatness, but sustainability and adaptability are crucial for lasting success. So, let's remember, even the first empire couldn't avoid a cosmic smackdown for hubris, and perhaps that's why we should always keep our ambitions in check, and maybe avoid declaring ourselves living gods.